We're going to learn some valuable snake keeping tips today because I'm fortunate enough to have a large group of experienced, knowledgeable snake herders in the Horde of Keepers over on the Green Room Python's Patreon. You see, I was trying to come up with material for a video the other day, and I had a brilliant idea. I thought, why don't I just have the Horde do this work for me? That way I can go and watch Resident Alien again.
Hey, you cannot give up on your mission. You need to help us.
So anyway, as they always do, the Horde came through for me. So this is a good time for another tips and tricks video, but this time it's coming from a whole bunch of different snake keepers. Now, when I asked the Horde for their input, as per usual, they flooded me with responses. So I could only take about half of them, or probably even less than half. But the way I chose is I tried to pick things that I haven't talked about before, or some things that I didn't even know about, which is really cool. I learned a lot of stuff. But out of that pile that I pulled, there's still a ton of them. So we're going to go rapid fire. You might want to have a pen to write down the ones that you want to try. All right, here we go. Damara, don't fall off, babes. You're too big to fall off my shoulders. First one on my list here. Paul says, toilet paper rolls stapled and sealed at one end make great hides for baby snakes. This is brilliant. I use toilet paper rolls all the time, but I never thought to staple an end. So I'm going to do that from now on. Just make sure that your staples are in there clean and you don't have any metal poking out, you know. Next one is from Renee. Male rats smell different than females. I notice my snake prefers males. She hasn't eaten a female ever. That's interesting. I've never heard of that. I don't even check to see if the rats that I feed are male or female. So, you know, let me know if you guys have that same experience, or if you start to notice. Try to see if your snake maybe has a preference between male and female. All right, Artful Crow says, don't try to feed your food-motivated, heat-seeking snake when you have a high fever or just got out of the shower. That's a really great point. Anything warmer than the rodent is going to be the target for feeding. So careful of that. I'm sure that we've all tried to feed our snakes a rat that's warmer in the middle or warmer on the backside for some reason, and your snake goes for it. Great point, Artful Crow. Okay, this one I may have talked about a long time ago, but I don't remember. Bree says, putting a penny in their water dish that's been manufactured before 1982. Copper acts as an antibacterial in the water, but does not replace water changes, just an extra precaution. Learned that from Emily from Snake Discovery. Yeah, I heard that from Emily from Snake Discovery too, and I was doing it for a while. It does work. It is antibacterial, but I stopped doing it because I arrange for water changes on a regular basis. I think I would do it only in times where I was going to be away for a long period of time and I wasn't going to be able to have my snake babysitter here. So, like if I was going to be away for more than a week or something like that, I would maybe do the penny thing. So here's one that I've done before, but I don't think I've ever talked about. And the reason that I haven't really talked about it is that in general, you don't want to move your snake to feed. However, check this out. Z Popester says, to get a new stubborn hatchling eating, place the snake and the rodent, preferably frozen thawed, in either a paper bag or a small container, such as a deli, together for a short time. Yeah, so this is something that works a lot of times for hatchlings. I use a paper bag, and I will, place the frozen thawed rodent in there, and then place the snake in the bag with the frozen thawed rodent. Move their stuff out of the back of their enclosure where the heat source is, and I put the whole thing right there. Put the bag right there near the heat source, so that there's some of the bag on the heat source and some off. And that will often get a snake who doesn't typically eat to eat. I just check on them the next morning. I leave it in there overnight. Check the next morning, and hopefully the snake has eaten. So that's a good tip that a lot of people use to get their young snakes to eat, but it probably would work with older snakes too. Amber says, when you have burrowing snakes, they often disappear when they're in shed. They often disappear regardless. They curl up somewhere, they feel safe, and they stay there as much as possible. The best thing I've found to avoid panic is to have a clear bottomed container for smaller babies so you can find them from below. Also remember to check for the shed after they reappear. It's often buried deep in the substrate. Yeah, this is pretty common for sand boas, like Kenyan sand boas. They will, you'll have them in a deep bed of substrate, and they like to just be down there. So it's really nice to be able to just pick up whatever cage you have them in, especially if they're little and you have them in a little cage. I did this just the other day for a friend who lives down the street. I was teaching her how to feed frozen thawed, and we picked up the cage and saw the little Kenyan sand boa at the bottom. It's really easy. Here's another one that falls under the general category of don't move your snakes to feed, but this might work. I've never done it before. I've never heard it before, but I trust CNC Python Factory, and CNC Python Factory is saying picking up a hatchling in one hand and offering food on tongs in the other. I asked him about this. I said, does that work? Is that a thing? And he said, yes. Sometimes with hatchlings that are stubborn eaters, that's worked for him. So this would be more for, something to try. Like if you're breeding snakes and you have a group of hatchlings, you might give that a shot, I think if it's a pet snake and they've already established that they eat, that probably wouldn't work, and it may confuse the snake. Maybe, but I've never tried it. By the way, this is a complete list of the horde of keepers. These are the people that I came to for this list of suggestions, so you can thank them. They just went to patreon.com/greenroompythons and they signed up, and they're all on sort of different tiers and things like that. They get different benefits, but there's also a free option. And for the free option, you're not technically in the horde of keepers, but you are what we call horde adjacent. And you get weekly update videos. I usually film a little 1-minute update of what's happening in the green room, a little behind the scenes, or maybe what's happening with me. So, feel free to go check that out. Get it? Feel free to go check that out, because it's the free tier. You get it. So these guys are really the reason that this channel is a thing. I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for the support from my Patreon supporters. So thanks so much to them. Also, thanks so much to our channel sponsors, Black Box Cages, Lane Labs, the Royals Project, and RGI. By the way, speaking of RGI, I sent the sheds off from several videos ago where we talked about RGI, and I had sheds for Molly Malone, Captain Farrell, and Kada. So those are all at RGI right now, and my guess is that by the time you're watching this video, I probably will already have the results back. So I will share the results in some other video or post or something like that. All right, let's get back to it. So I put Damara away, and we have Stella now. So this one comes from Jared, and this is interesting because it's something that I didn't know. I have no experience with hognose snakes, but here's a cool hognose tip. Some hognose snakes won't take food off tongs, but will try to eat the mouse sideways until they get discouraged and leave it if left to their own devices. A solution that works for me is to put the mouse in a tube so the snake has to grab the head first when they find it. That's a great idea. Find yourself a little plastic tube, put the thing in there. It's great. Stella, come on now. So Paul has made a good point here. I've talked about it a little bit, but I think it's a good one. Ball pythons are great, but not always the best pet snake for everyone. Keep an open mind and try to experience as many species as possible before purchasing your first snake. Ask other keepers, not pet store employees, what they like and what they don't like about snakes they have. Yeah, I think that's a great idea to interview people, especially that are not trying to actively sell you a snake. Stay with me. Look, just stay with me. It's not that long. Just hang out a little bit. So Paul has experience because he's got a number of different species of snake, including a pair of scrub pythons that just produced some eggs. There might be babies from those eggs, I'm not sure. Here's a good one from Azara. She says, I have a ball python and a Kenyan sand boa. I use a radiant heat panel for my ball python, so when I warm my thawed rats, I place them over the top of the warm part of the enclosure. So when you have a radiant heat panel, that sits on the ceiling, and on the other side, on the outside of the cage, it's a little bit warmer. So let's see, where are we at? I lost my place on this. So she puts it in a sandwich bag on top of the enclosure. This heats the rats slowly, and they retain their heat longer, and my ball python seems to like dry rats better. My reticulated python is leaving. Yeah, I agree. I don't know if my snakes like dry rats better, but I certainly do. I prefer to feed a dry rodent than a wet rodent. I always place them in plastic bags. But that's a smart idea. So there's a radiant heat panel right up here on this cage. And a lot of times my snakes, like this particular one, likes to sit in a hide. And in fact, Echo will sit in that hide all day. Like on her second day of digesting, I'll let her sit in there and she'll hang out. It's a perfect temperature for digesting food. But that's a great point, and something I've never done before, which is put your sandwich bag of rodents on top of a cage right there where it's warm. Warrior Brood says, my non-ball python takes food better if I rub the food on their mouth. My ball python hates that. Okay, so I can say from experience that that is just individual snake to individual snake. It's not species specific, and it does work with some ball pythons. I've suggested in previous videos to try pushing the rodent onto the neck of the ball python, and a lot of times they'll take it that way. Same thing works with, depending on the snake, with putting it on their mouth. Now, if you try it and your snake recoils or tries to flee, stop, because it's not going to work. But for some snakes, they won't recoil or flee, and they'll kind of sit there for a minute, and you can sort of rub it on the front of their mouth. And I did it with Molly Malone yesterday, by the way. It works for her. And they'll open their mouth and grab it. So same with the neck technique. Just give it a try. If they run quickly, don't do it again. Hey, what are you doing? You happy right there? Are you happy on the warm thing? Huh? You good? You looking for food? Okay. Where are we here? This feels like a live stream, you guys. If you haven't joined the Green Room Pythons live streams, it's very much like this, except it's Q&A that comes from the Horde of Keepers. But I sit here with a clipboard, and this is what we do. And I lose track of my place, and I have snakes out. This is very live streamish. Okay, now where did I go? I found it. I know where we're at. Don't worry. Okay, this one's interesting because I didn't realize this was a thing. Sarah says, when you're assembling your vivarium, turn the vents around so your snakes can't push them out, and obviously still seal them with silicone. So I asked her, this is a product in the UK, and I'm sure there are enclosures in the US that are like this too, that have like removable vents where the stopper for them is on the outside, is what I'm guessing, and the snake can just push, push, push until it drops. So she's saying flip it around so the stopper's on the inside, and then still use silicone to make sure that it's secured. So good tip. Something I didn't know that it was even a thing. Do you want to come back out and see me? It would be so much better for the video if you did. Tara says, to retain humidity, I have found that black silicone oven liners or baking rolls work great to cover the screen top. They can be cut to shape, and they're a lot nicer looking than press and seal. Yeah, I have in the past used Havoc tape, HVAC foil tape, which doesn't look great. That's a really good idea because that's like a silicone rubber thing, and if you can cut it to size and make it shape perfectly like that, it's a good idea. I love this one from Silvermander, and I might try it at some point. Olas. So these are terracotta vessels for watering plants. It's for watering plants over time. She says they work very well in keeping the humidity up. So I'm going to pop a picture of them because I had to look it up to see what it was. But you seal it up, and then it releases water or humidity into the air over time. Even easier than finding an Ola is to take a terracotta pot 3 to 5 inches and fill the bottom hole with hot glue or silicone. Place it in one of the corners of the enclosure, fill it with water, and place the bottom tray on top. I refill mine every other day in the winter, but I haven't had humidity issues. So the only problem I see with that potentially is the snake knocking it over and the whole thing falls apart. So what it looked like with the Olas, which is this sort of jar thing, you see it, I'm putting a picture on the thing. It looks like you can seal that up, so if it falls, it's not going to spill everywhere. Good tip, I like that one. I don't know why I haven't thought about this myself. For those of you who use playpens, if you like to put your baby or not so baby snake in a playpen for contained roaming, this is from Forest, by the way, I put a large unscented puppy pad in the bottom and then cover it with clutter as I normally do. That way, if they pee or poop in the playpen, I just throw that puppy pad away. I usually put my snake in the playpen 72 hours after a meal and have a 95% chance that they'll poop and urate on that puppy pad. In the playpen. Yeah, because they usually do when they're in a playpen. Oftentimes, if they have to go, they're going to go there. What a great idea. Because I hate cleaning out that playpen. I'm always scrubbing it out and sanitizing and everything. I still would do the sanitization spray and just let it dry, but man, great idea. Okay, let's keep this going beyond just tips and tricks from the Horde. What's your best tip or trick that you've learned in snake keeping? Put it in the comments below, and then we'll just have a running tally of comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.